No matter what phase of your career or business you're at, you're going to have different things you have to focus on and enemies you're going to have. And there's 5 phases you're generally going to go through. So let's just say you're from 0 to 100,000. What should I do here? 100 to a million, million to 10 million, 10 million to 100 million, and 100 million beyond. We're going to talk about that here today. And by the way, if you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. For some of you, they used to watch the old school content from 10 years ago when I used to write on the board. It took me 2 hours to write the stuff out and I had paint all over my hands. This is a little bit more effective, yet we can still give you the same exact message as well. So let's get right into it. All right, so think about this here. If you're watching this, you're like, Pat, I'm making 20 grand a year. This is me making 20 grand a year. I'm in the Army. What should I be thinking about at this phase? This is me at Morgan Stanley Dean Woodard. Just got my Series 7. Just getting started. I'm 21, 22 years old here. What do I do here? This is when you're growing your business. You have revenue. You have a lot of different issues. Compliance, finance, expansion, hiring, firing. What should I be focused on here? Or then you're expanding into a different business line, podcast, marketing. What do I do there? Then at the same time, the most common thing that'll come up is the following. People will ask me this question on Connect all the time. Pat, I'm growing my business and we expanding into this and I just raised $5 million and I hired my first C-suite and I'm going through this. But oh my God, my wife is giving me a hard time. My kids, I'm not spending time. How do you balance this? And then my mother is sick. My father is going through this. My in-laws are going. I'm just so overwhelmed. So how do you do all of that and still find a way to maintain this? It's not easy. It's very hard. I'm going to show what I do with you in the 5 different phases. If you want today's PowerPoint PDF, stick around to the very end. I'm starting a circle dedicated for entrepreneurs only, but stick around till the very end. So phase 1 that we're going through, I call it the shadow phase. This is the 0 to 100. If you can just think about one word and it's shadow, the rest of it's going to be fairly simple. So no matter what business you're in, think about shadow phase. So most important skill set, in my opinion, to learn at this phase is what? Sales. Why? If I can watch you make 50 sales, make 30 sales, and I'm seeing how you're selling, I'm seeing how disciplined you are, okay? I'm seeing how you handle your, negotiation with the client. I'm seeing how your identity is going. Man, this guy's very confident to ask for a $100,000 check. This guy's very confident to be able to ask the client to do this. I don't know if I can do that. I only have $3,000 in the bank. If they find out that I'm broke and I'm $20,000 in debt, who's going to do business with me, right? But just think shadow. What can I do and who can I learn from that's going to give me the right habits, the right discipline? This guy comes in, he works, he does this, he does that. Good habits are being duplicated. We had a guy at Bally's. There was a bunch of us at Bally's that worked together. All of us left Bally's. Bally Total Fitness years ago. It's not in business anymore. LA Fitness Bottom. We all knew those rock stars. These guys were amazing at what they were doing. One guy goes into the mortgage business. Unfortunately, the guy that he watches makes a lot of money, but he's also addicted to cocaine. Within 2 years, guess what happens to that guy? He's duplicating the same exact habits. Guess what happens to him? Ends up owing taxes in the tens of millions of dollars, has all these issues for the rest of his life. His mom and dad are trying to help bail him out because he had wrong people to shadow and duplicate. So it's not only success, but it's also the right habits. You shadow the wrong person, it can completely destroy your life. So very, very important this phase. Your enemy at this level is bad habits. You pick up bad habits. You're coming in late. You're sleeping in. You're lazy. You got an attitude. You're arrogant. You're kind of going through some of this stuff. You have to be very careful here because the most important thing to overcome at phase 1 of shadowing is bad habits. If you're not coachable and a person that wants to teach you that you're shadowing, they don't have the tolerance for you. They have a lot of options of people that want to work with them. So if some of those things are bad for you, you're not going to get the best opportunity working with somebody that can transfer that knowledge to you. Phase 2 that we go through is a leading phase. This is 100,000 to a million. At 0 to 100,000, maybe you can get away without leading. At 100,000 to a million, now you need to learn about how to lead. And again, doesn't matter what the job is. Leading by example, building, okay? You're going through, driving. How do I drive Johnny in a different way than the way I drive Mary? And you'll say, man, when I challenge her, she doesn't respond well, but the same way I challenge him, it works well. So maybe I need to learn how to challenge her in a different way than the way I challenge him. That's tough. How do I do this? This isn't easy. And that's a part of where the EQ comes in, where you learn about human nature, where you learn about, okay, maybe this is a time for me to encourage a little bit. This is a time for me to mentor. This is a time for me to challenge. This is a time for me to steer the pot. This is a time for me to bring everybody together. This is a time for me to give this message. This is the part where you learn a little bit timing of the message, and that is an element of leading. Networking. Can I get in the right rooms? Can I get the right phone numbers? Can I meet the right people? This is one of the reasons why Connect is doing so well. People are networking, doing business with each other left and right. It's becoming a top networking app where I can get a hold of somebody, pay for their time, establish the relationship there, and then over 6 months later, we had a guy that connects me for 50 times. We go back and forth. Very successful guy out of Ohio. Then he eventually becomes a member at the cigar lounge, comes to the cigar lounge. We see each other. I meet his wife. We're hugging each other as if we've known each other for 10 years. But because this relationship has been being built on Connect, and our business is being done. Good guy, hung out, become a member, and a lot of other things that's going to be happening from it. But networking, very important at this phase. Unreasonable hospitality. If you have unreasonable hospitality, guys like me will pay attention to it. And guys like me who pay attention to will never forget the way you treated me. For example, I'll give you an idea. Our cigar lounge right now, the general manager that we just hired to be the GM of the cigar lounge, it's a person that's been serving me for the last 4 years. The way he treats me, my wife, my kids, my dad, any of my employees, absolutely world class. It's so amazing that I can't forget that service. So if you have incredible service you're giving to people, they're going to remember. It's one of the most simplest things anybody can do at 100,000 to $1 million, but it's so valuable at the highest level. Unreasonable hospitality. Next one, similar to building, leading is connecting. You're learning how to connect with people in different meetings. You're negotiating with a boss. How do you connect with them? You're negotiating with a vendor. You're talking to somebody that's a partner, an enemy. How do I connect to bring down the temperament of this unhappy client? You got to find a way to connect. And the next one is specializing. At this phase, you have to figure out a way what your niche is going to be. So for example, I get into sales. I get into financial services. I'm selling stocks, bonds, mutual funds, insurance, variable annuity, whatever it may be. But anything I can get my hands on, I sell between 0 to 100,000. At 100,000 to $1 million, I said, nah, I'm going to specialize. So what's the specialization? Insurance and annuities. And that's it. That's it. That's it. The sooner you specialize, now you can really be focused on only those things instead of saying, I'm going to try to do everything that's out there for me. And then recruiting, because to go from 100,000 to $1 million, you have to recruit an assistant. You have to bring on board people that are going to do customer service or case management or engineers or salespeople, but you have to get good at recruiting somebody to want to work with you. So how do you do that? We sat down with a couple of our executives and managers and I said, interview me to the company, recruit me to the company. What do you mean by that? Do an interview. Sell me why somebody has to be here. Sell me the dream. Sell me the system. Sell me what we do here. Challenge me why this could be the opportunity that I ought to be a part of. Most people don't know how to do that. That's a very, very important skill set. When Jobs was recruiting other people, he knew how to poke and recruit them to join his vision with Apple. You got to learn how to recruit. By far, one of the most under-recognized skill set to take that business from 100,000 to $1 million. So now, who is your enemy at this level? Your enemy at this level is complacency and contentment. I cannot tell you how many times I was in a room, when I'm at this phase, 100,000 to $1 million, guys are ahead of me. I'm ranked number 60, and I'm sizing everybody up, and I'm like, oh my God, that guy's gonna kill it, and he's gonna kill it, and that guy's gonna do so well, and there's no way I can compete with her, and look at this guy here, until I realized most of these guys got comfortable at 100K, 200K, at a certain position, at a certain title. They were cruising. They were no longer pushing. They were no longer reading new books. They were no longer developing themselves. They got complacent and very happy and content, and they stopped developing. So they were only talking about the first 20 books they read. They were no longer recreating themselves consistently. And I realized at the end of the day, this is way too early to decide who the biggest thinkers are. We got some time to go until we realize who the biggest thinkers are. Typically takes 10 to 20 years. So that's phase number 2. Now let's go to phase number 3. Phase number 3 is $1 million to $10 million. At this phase, you need to learn how to process issues, decision making. So when it comes down to processing issues, let me go on this side. Crisis management, you're going to have a lot of challenges that's going to come up. Lawsuits, employee leaves, defamation of character, rumors, somebody trying to hurt you, put you out of business, another competitor that's spreading rumors about your company and pinning you against your business partner. You have to be very, very careful with this. It's gonna happen. And by the way, there is no escaping this. This, the bigger you get, is guaranteed. It's not like you can avoid it. It's gonna happen. You're either gonna be good at it or you're not going to be good at it. If you're good at it, you'll handle it well. If you're not good at it, you're going to go backwards if you don't know how to manage crisis. Next is high stakes meetings. So you will have meetings at 0 to 100,000, which is maybe a high stakes meeting for you to be able to convince the guy to hire you. And the person you don't have a lot of credibility at, why should I hire you? You have to be able to have that high stakes meeting and close yourself to the person that you're going to be shadowing, right? At 100,000 to $1 million, you can have some high stakes meeting to recruit somebody that's going to come over to your business, that's going to be an executive experience. But at $1 million to $10 million, you're going to have an opportunity, or 2 or 5, where you will sit down with someone that if you're able to get this relationship going, your business could go from $1 million to $25 million. I'll give you one of them that I had at 32 years old, 31 years old. I'm in Houston at AIG's building. I'm on the 41st, 42nd floor. I meet the CEO. Then I go into a room. They're sitting there. I'm trying to tell them, you ought to do business with me and I ought to do business with you. You ought to give me a contract. They're like, who are you? I said, put me in a room with all your lawyers. Everybody that you have, ask me any questions you want. Great. They set up the meeting. There's 20 people in the room. I'm at the head. I said, just give me a marker and a board and ask me whatever you want to ask me. And I'm there with a couple of my guys in the room. They start asking questions. Well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And I'm addressing every single one of them. By the time I'm done, they asked me to sit outside. I come back and they said, you got the contract. If I don't get that contract, the game's going to change. I may not even exist. Business may go out of business. The company may go out of business. But we end up becoming the #1 writers of AIG insurance for 4 or 5 consecutive years, back to back to back, because of that high stakes meeting. And how you prepare for that high stakes meeting is before you go into the meeting, you sit down with a couple other people that you respect. They're your right-hand people. You ask them, well, what do you think they're going to ask me? They're going to ask you this. If they ask you, what are you going to say? It's a good question. Boom, boom, boom. No, boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. That's the one. What if they ask you this? I don't know how to answer. What if they ask you this? They're going to ask you this. So you have to be as prepared of the questions that will be asked in those high stakes meetings that will cover 80, 90% of the question. Then there's a 10% that you're not going to be ready for. And that's where you win. No matter how much you prepare, there's going to be 10% of the conversations that you will not expect. It will not be anticipated. It'll be surprising. And if you do that right, you're probably going to do a deal with the folks you're doing business with. So very important when you're at the $1 million to $10 million. Next one is going to be management. How will you manage different personalities? One person came from this corporation, from Uber. This person came from Chevron. This person came from a big insurance company. This person came from here. How do you get all of these guys that are coming from 5 different cultures to work together? How do you manage these different personalities, their skill sets? How do you manage the money that you have? The amount of money you left in the bank, the savings that you have, the balance sheet. How do you manage all that stuff? But management will be one as well. Next, master processor. You will be in a room, someone's going to ask questions. Well, such and such happened. You won't believe, well, how do we handle this? This person called this client said this, that customer said this. And the most basic way on how to process some of these things, there's videos on this, is 0 to 10, how important is this? How urgent is this? Who do we know that can help solve this problem? 0 to 10, this is probably a 9, an urgency. 0 to 10, when it comes down to amount of importance of money being lost, this is probably a 7. We can lose $500,000. That's high. And who can help us with this? Our lawyer, our compliance officer, our accountant, the person that has a contact with this client that is not happy. Let's get that person on the Zoom with us. But that's processing issues. The more you get better at processing issues, the more your executive team and leadership around you will get better at processing issues. And then you have a new peer group. A lot of times when you're here, 1 to 10 million, you're alone. So you're not getting into that next room. You need to be in a mastermind. You need to be in certain groups that you're watching other people process issues. Maybe you're in real estate and there's one in the group that's engineer, one in the group that's, I don't know, it's running a digital marketing agency, another one that's in solar, another one that's in insurance, another one that's in property and casualty. And this person's telling their problems that you needed to hear. That person's giving problems about expansion into a new state. This person's giving problems about their personal life. And you're like, whoa, this was great. I came in thinking I had one issue that I'm trying to resolve, but what I really needed is the 8 things they're going through. So you need to find a new peer group that challenges you to have to grow, or else if you stay with the same level of people that are below you, you'll feel so successful, you'll slow down. Because like, oh my God, Johnny is so great. Look at all the money he's making. Oh, my life is so great. Yeah, let me tell you, I'm special. Versus you need to be in more rooms where you're like just another person in the room. If you're in too many rooms where you're like this, and everyone's below you, you're going to be hitting a wall and you won't be growing to the next level. And then clarity. You need more clarity. What are my next moves? What am I doing this for? What's the vision? Where are we going to? At a guy I asked a question of that he's working with the CEO. He says, look, I love this guy. I love working with this company. I've been here for 5 years. But every time I ask him about vision, there is no vision. He just takes the profits off the table. I don't know what to do with this guy. What do I do? There's nothing really I can say. Because that CEO, that entrepreneur needs to have a vision. Where are we taking the company to? If you don't, your team is going to get lost. So there needs to be a clear vision of what we're doing. So now we know phase 1 is shadowing. Your enemy is bad habits. Phase 2 is leading. Your enemy is contentment and complacency. So now phase 3 is processing issues. What's your enemy? These are your 3 enemies. Reactive. Everything's reactive. Oh my God. Oh my God. So when it's always reactive, you're disrupting everybody else's workflow, right? Instead of being proactive, you're only responding to crisis versus anticipating what could happen. Number 2 is lack of urgency. You don't have an urgency. It's like, yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah, we'll hire that person. Yeah, it's not a big deal. Yeah, if that person quits, we're going to be fine. Yeah, it's going to be okay. Or your ego. Nobody can give you feedback. I don't need any coaching. Do you realize who I am? So you're kind of going through that phase. Those 3 are your enemies at 1 to 10 million. So the next phase is 10 million to 100 million. We call this the sequencing phase. That's because now it's about strategy. Now it's about what is my next move. Now it's about, what should I be doing next? So in this, you have to master power plays. You're going to go through it. Power plays could be towards your competitors. Power plays could be a statement to the marketplace that nobody is expecting. No one was expecting when we first bought this property what was going to happen on election night. Just a couple of days ago, the vice president's brother is here and he says, while we were at the convention center, we were all watching a PBD podcast because you guys got it right before anybody else. We took a risk that night. We licensed a software that we probably didn't need to do. We're just a podcast. But we brought it in. Tom presented it to me. I said, let's do it. What is the cost? Let's go back and forth. We finally got it on election night. We had 2,000 people here for our podcast. Everybody's like, what the hell is going on? There's 1,000 cars, VIPs, people coming through, live, 283,000 people concurrent live. We had a meeting with YouTube CEO and Google CEO. They're like, what were you guys doing that night? It was record-breaking. That's a power play. That's a statement to the marketplace. Every once in a while, you need to be making a statement to the marketplace when they're watching you. Next area of focus is sequencing. What sequencing means is, hey, is this a move? Do I make that now as a move 3 or is it a move 9? Do I buy this software now for $2.8 million or wait 18 months? Because in 18 months, maybe I got to focus on hiring 19 more people first and being prepared before I go, no, we should buy the software. You're going to be judged on how good of a job you do sequencing. Investments, hiring, expansion, new marketing campaign, new product, all of that is sequencing. So it's always, is that a move now? Like imagine you're in a boardroom with all your executives. We just had our quarterly meeting at Four Seasons this week. And we'll sit there and we go through all these issues from 7:30 in the morning, 7:30 at night. And hey, here's what's going on with finance. Here's what's going on with this. Here, we should go raise capital on this business. We should go hire this person here. The entire conversation was about sequencing. Okay. The next one is running mate. At this phase, 10 million to 100 million, if you don't find the right running mate, your pillow is going to feel very hard. You know what it feels like when you sleep on a very hard pillow, like a brick? You're tossing and turning all night. What does it feel like when you sleep on a real soft pillow? You sleep better at night, right? So at this point is when you find a running mate that they're thinking and sharing pressure as much as you are in different ways. You're going at night and it's like, let me tell you what happened last night. We had these 3 things that happened. I did this, I contacted that person, I contacted this person. Thank God I got a running mate. You will be judged on finding a running mate here. Think about a running mate as a spouse, as a wife, as a husband. You find a right running mate, life is better. You find a wrong running mate, divorce, bankruptcy, the whole night. And in an area like this with running mates, there has to be a criteria. And there's a few points that I personally go through. Contacts, character, work ethic, bought into the vision, an example, somebody that has specialized skill. There's 7 points that I personally go through when I'm judging a running mate, and we give them a score. You get the right running mate, business grows exponentially. Very, very important hire. And the next point here outside of the running mate is raising money. You will need to learn how to raise money. And if you don't know how to raise money, you got to have somebody on your team that's raised money before. So if you don't have somebody on your team that has raised money before, the terms are not going to be favorable to you. It's going to be favorable to the person that's given the money. So you remember, I don't need anybody to go help me raise money. No problem. You don't. but the terms are going to be shitty for you. So you're going to need to raise money with someone that's done it in the past before, so they're able to get some of those controls. Any purchase you make over $10,000, we need you to get it approved by me. You kidding me? It would take me 2 days to get it approved by you. No, that needs to be $500,000. We're not going to do the $500,000. There's like 20 things that you got to go through. So if you're raising money and your running mate you're hired knows how to raise money, it accelerates the process. So now, what are the enemies you have at this phase? 2 enemies. Lack of recreating yourself, and number 2, intoxicated with flattery. Everyone around you is going to say, oh my God, Jack, you're the best. Oh my goodness, you smartest guy I know is Jack. And let me tell you, he can't do anything wrong. Yeah, it's the last thing you need. You almost kind of need to tell yourself, no, don't believe the hype, don't believe the hype, don't believe the hype. Keep going to the next phase. And then the other part is recreating yourself. Who do you need to be for this next phase to be ready? Because by the way, running a $10 million business, very different than running a $100 million business. Very, very different. Very, very few get to 10 million. Even fewer ever make it to the $100 million business. So then last but not least is phase 5. So what's phase 5 about? Phase 5 is about solving for X. Everything at this phase becomes solving for X. Everything. You'll sit in a room and you're trying to find a way to, I had a meeting with my guys and I'm telling my guys saying, hey, what's the difference between building a $1 million company versus a $10 million company? What's the difference between 10 million or 100 million, 100 million or a billion, billion or 10 billion, 10 billion or 100 billion, 100 billion or a trillion? Leadership, vision, sure. I said, was there really that big of a difference between 10 billion and 100 billion? Think about it. I guess no. So what's really the difference between 10 billion and 100 billion? What's the difference between a $100 billion company and a $1 trillion company? Netflix is a $200 billion company, but Microsoft is a $3 trillion company. What's the difference? Is it just lifespan? Is it just a product? Or is it the fact that they solve for X and solve a bigger problem? The bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the money you make. So the CEO, the entrepreneur, the founder, has to constantly be challenging the people on how to solve for X. In the meeting that we had this quarter, I told my executive team, I said, let me ask you guys a question. Who in here has built a $10 billion company from scratch? Go ahead, guys, raise your hands. Go ahead, guys, participate, please, raise your hands. And everyone's going, what's this guy talking about? I said, who is taking a business from 0 to 100 billion or 10 billion here? No one's raising their hands. I said, I'm also not raising my hands. I've never done it before. So what does that mean? That means our way of thinking got us to where we are today. But if we want to build something that's going to be 10 billion and beyond, we have to change the way we think. The shift in the mindset has to be constantly challenged. All right, so what do we need to get good at in this area? First one is moral authority. Moral authority is, if I'm golfing every day, guy asks me a question, says, how come I can't duplicate salespeople? It's so hard. There's one guy on one of our consulting calls. I said, let me ask you a question. And I see the backdrop of where he's at. You know how somebody does a Zoom and they make it blurry so you don't know what the backdrop is? I said, I'm sorry, let's call him Johnny. Johnny, where are you doing this Zoom from? From my home office. Okay, how many hours a week do you spend time around your salespeople? Oh, I work from home. You are never going to duplicate salespeople. You're not. So the moral authority to have people want to run through the wall for your company to be growing, do you have the moral authority? Do they see you recreating yourself? Are you setting the example of being there? Are you in the office? Are they seeing you hiring other people? Are you seeing they're staying late, coming in early? Are they seeing you creating opportunities for the company? What are they seeing you do? You as the founder have to make sure you earn the moral authority from your guys for them to trust you. And by the way, at this stage, at the 100 million plus, the people you have on your executive team, if you don't continue growing, they got a lot of options of where to go to. Remember, typically at this stage, the executive team that you have is there for an LTIP, profit sharing, or equity. If the company is not growing valuation-wise, why do I need LTIP, profit sharing, or equity? I don't need it. Do you understand how that works? So they're shopping. But if you're at this phase and the business is growing, others from other companies that have flatline are saying, hey man, I want to go run with this guy because this guy's got moral authority. They're watching your moral authority. Next one is replacement game. You're constantly looking at mid-level management. This person's got to move up. That person's got to go to a different division. That person here in this level that's running this many people, we got to get him to go to a different department, or this person's going to grow to the next level. Do we have the next layer of management coming in? and you're replacing jobs with new people because the company is expanding, either with people or with software or technology, but that replacement game is constantly thinking about what you need to be doing. I remember one time we had the software that we bought when we used to license the insurance agents. Our insurance licensing department was massive because we had to get them appointed with different carriers in different states, and it was so much cost. I met this Ukrainian guy who had the software, amazing. We had multiple meetings, took us 2 years to negotiate. But eventually when we did the deal, I could license God knows how many people like this and get them appointed in 20 different companies in 5 different states with no issues because it was all electronic. That was a replacement game. Instead of having everything be paperwork hands-on, we were able to move it and have the software do it for us. So you're thinking about replacement games, especially today with AI. Third point is vision. We've talked about this, but it's got to get even to the next level to attract the right people. Generational plan. When your company is doing this type of money, that means you also have a lot of money and your net worth is high. You don't want to create additional headaches. You got to take some time to go hire an estate planner to put your estate in the right place. Estate planning, nuptial, what's going to happen with your kids, how is it going to be passed on to them, tax planning, financial advisor. You need to make sure that part is also squared away, because most of the time when guys get to a business like this, they'll do a little bit of it, but they still wing it in that area for whatever reason. It's like doctors. I sat down with so many different doctors when I was doing financial planning. They were some of the most uneducated people when it came down to finances, because advisors were uncomfortable to give advice to doctors. And so nobody would approach doctors. They had nothing in place. They're making 800 grand a year, but nothing in place. You need to make sure you get your finances in order as well. And outside of that is legacy, similar thing to what I'm talking about. So at one point here, if you're 68 years old, you're watching this video, you're like, dude, I'm not trying to take this business to $1 billion. I'm trying to get out of this business. I've been doing it for 40 years. I want to give it to my son. No problem. That's a complete different thing. At our consulting from BetDavid Consulting, betdavid.com, you can go and learn more about it. I can't tell you how many conversations I have with father and son and daughter where we sit down and say, okay, how are we going to transition this business over to the son? And the father doesn't want to let go, and the son hasn't earned the right. What's the right way of doing it? There's a whole psychology and philosophy behind this. But at this phase, that may be something you need to be keeping in mind. Your enemies at this phase, lack of purpose. If you don't have purpose, you're bored, because everything in your life is covered. The house, the cars, the travel, Christmas, summer vacation, Hamptons, Lambo, Bentley, Rolls Royce, sushi, ikura, foie gras, Stefano Ricci suit, Tom Ford colognes, whatever you want. What else do you want? It's all covered. You go to the courtside, Super Bowl, Derby, F1. What else do you need, right? Big cul-de-sac house with the pool. You put up the parties. Politicians come to your house, all this other stuff. If you don't have the next purpose, that's an enemy. And last one is not recruiting your next enemy. And what I mean by that is I wrote a book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. If you don't have the next thing that gets you out of bed, competition, it's time to hang it up. Sell the business, let your son or your kids run the business to the next level, because you are going to probably cause the business to go down if you don't have these two things. Lack of purpose and not recruiting your next enemy. If you want to get today's PowerPoint, all you have to do is download Connect, join the new entrepreneur circle that I started. The first 100 will be only $5 a month. Any video I do, any PDF, any notes that I put, it'll go in there. And on top of that, all of you from around the world will be able to network with each other, talk to one another, and it's my community, meaning people who also run businesses around the world. So if you haven't yet downloaded Connect or the circle, click on the link below in the description or the QR code right here. Download the app, join the circle. This entire PowerPoint is waiting for you there.